Okay, that concludes our USDB portion of the meeting today, and we'll move now to our general consent calendar. Are there any items that board members wish to remove from the consent calendar? Board Member Earl?
I'm sorry, I'm trying to really quickly pull up my item. It's the one with the Salt Lake Health Department. Is that number 4? I'm trying to get back on
Item 2, Salt Lake City Department of Health data requests.
That's the one then. I'd like that, please, for further information.
Okay. Is there any other items to remove? Okay. If there's no other items to remove, is there a motion to approve the general consent calendar? Chair Huntsman?
Yeah, I'd like to make that motion to approve the general consent calendar.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, that was a second from several, I believe. Okay, the motion before us is that board approve the general consent calendar. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please vote. Board Member Earl? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Okay, now let's go back to item number 2. Board Member Earl, your question on Salt Lake City Health Department data request.
Thank you. And sorry, I keep hitting my hand instead of yes, so I do apologize. I don't know why I'm doing that today. I want to know why the data of all children needs to be sent. What is the usage? And I'm just wondering if there's someone that can answer the actual process and why we're asking for this information.
Do we have somebody present who'd like to answer this? Whitney Phillips, are you prepared to answer this one? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, hi, Whitney Phillips, Chief Privacy Officer. This is a request from the Salt Lake City County Department of Health, not all of Utah Department of Health. And they have asked for a monthly, us sending them monthly enrollment information, name, birth date, and gender of students in Salt Lake City County. And what they intend to do is that's used to verify the enrollment of COVID positive cases that the Department of Health has. So we wouldn't have any COVID positive cases information here at USBE. That would be there and they would do that matching. And I have to answer some questions that are a little more in depth of why it would be done this way instead of what we're doing now is what they're contacting school nurses individually to confirm the enrollment. I have Jeffrey Eason from Salt Lake City County Department of Health to answer those specific questions.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. This is Jeff Eason. I'm with Salt Lake County Health Department and the Bureau Manager over Population Health and Informatics Bureau. We collect communicable disease information under the communicable disease rule, which is R386-702. That surveillance information is basically laboratory reports from the different medical facilities and laboratories across the state. What we do with that information is follow up and conduct investigations to identify people that are at risk of transmitting COVID-19. While working specifically with the schools, the need to share positive individuals or people that are requiring quarantine as well, so these are people that are not positive, is imperative for minimizing opportunities of transmission in the school setting. So what we currently do is we share a list with our school colleagues or our school nurse colleagues that identify the positive cases that we know and we believe that they're within the school district and attend one of the schools. And then the nurses look them up individually and return a list back to us saying which students go to which school. So this takes a little bit of time and quite a bit of effort on the nurse's part. Just to give you an idea of the time frame, we're talking about typically 2 to 3 days for us to identify a case and then follow up with an investigation. With people being infectious 2 days prior to their illness onset, unfortunately, that offers quite a few different opportunities for students to go to school unidentified and potentially exposing their peers. So by conducting this linkage, we'll expedite the identification and notification of positive students at school so that we can remove them. We can also rapidly identify children who are intended to be quarantined and therefore should not be at school and share that information with our school nurse colleagues. And it is with this in mind that we believe this will interrupt disease transmission and decrease the rates within the schools.
I have a further question, if that's all right. This is
Yes, go ahead.
My question is there not a way when a student or individual comes in to get tested, I'm just trying to think of efficiency, asking them what school they attend? Is that, do you know what I mean, when they actually come in, instead of then getting the information and having to go through a system and that type of a thing? Could you answer that?
That is a great question. So to get the information about where children go to school, we would have to conduct the investigations. That means we have to be able to contact the parents, which we do our best to do, but sometimes it takes 3 to 4 days to do that when we have a target of 24 to 48 hours. And even then, not everybody is reached. We could look at identifying healthcare providers and laboratories to collect that information, but that's not something that they routinely collect at these facilities. And looking at the communicable disease rule, we're actually able to share this information with the school nurses because it's interrupting disease transmission. And we just see the data linkage in the background is the most or the least resource intensive and the best way to protect individual health information's privacy as well.
Okay, so let me understand. The kids are being tested without parent knowledge? Is that they're being...
Oh.
Because I guess in my view, a child would be taken by a parent to a facility, and at that point, and maybe I guess I might be naive in how it's done at Salt Lake County, but without the knowledge of parents, because a parent would need to fill out a form, right, for a child to do that. On that form, wouldn't you just put you would request the school instead of having, it just still seems like extra steps, but maybe I'm really not understanding how it's done in Salt Lake.
Well, this is statewide. Children that go to their healthcare providers or go to testing events are tested independently of the health department. They go to their own healthcare providers, which do not have a consistent data collection that come to the respective county health departments that those children reside in. So in order to collect that information, it would need to be a communicable disease rule change to require reporters to submit that piece of information of school enrollment. And that would be a rather labor-intensive process for not the rule change component per se, but for each laboratory, each healthcare provider to change the type of information that's collected.
Board Member Hanson, you have a question?
I'm just wondering, and maybe this is a question for Mr. Eason and Whitney as well. So Salt Lake is requesting this. COVID is certainly a statewide problem and everyone's dealing with the same issues. Is there a reason that we want to deal with this piecemeal with just Salt Lake County or the Salt Lake Health Department? Or is this something that we should expand and figure out a good solution for everyone?
I did reach out to, I had the exact same question as well. And right now, as far as I know, I believe it's Mr. Jackson from the Utah Department of Health is not interested in doing this yet, statewide.
Do you have a follow-up question, Board Member Hanson?
I do. I just don't know that we want to move forward piecemeal on this. If the health department has a request, I think it might be better to address it that way so we could have a elegant solution, I guess, for everyone and do this consistently.
Board Member Bolter?
Hi, thank you. I was just wondering, just a clarification, is this a request for the school to do the testing?
And I'm sorry, so this is not a request for testing. This is simply a request to receive a monthly export of children, name and date of birth, and the school district and school that they're enrolled in, so that whenever we receive notification of positive cases, that we can look within that list and say, student A, B, and C attend school A. Let's notify that school nurse that these students should not be at school to prevent further opportunities for disease transmission within that school. At this point, we are already doing this process. It's just a manual process to where we receive notification of the cases at the health department. We send a list of individuals over to our school nurses, which we believe in our best attempt will be attending schools within their district. And they return a list of this student attends school A, school B. And then we follow up with those school nurses so that they are aware. We make sure those students do not go to school during their infectious period. And we identify any opportunities for exposure so that we can keep schools open and in attendance.
Okay, thank you. I'm really uncomfortable with this. It feels like a complete breach of HIPAA laws and parents' rights to keep things. I mean, I understand in the name of safety and everything, but it seems like things are getting to the school that I would hate to, I don't know, I just think that we need parents' permission to do this. Thank you.
Superintendent Dixon?
Thank you, Vice Chair Cummins. I would just share that some of our superintendents have indicated that and this is in particular in Salt Lake County, there's a bit of lag time in finding out about students who have either tested positive or, they're doing the contact tracing, putting them on quarantine, but sometimes there's a family quarantine and a student shouldn't be at the school and they show up. And so they're expressing that there's this lag time of sometimes 2 and 3 days where students show up at school when they've tested positive and they shouldn't be there. Then that further adds to some quarantine. So one of the things that they've talked about is being able to figure out a way to streamline that process so that county health can notify the nurses right away or their point of contact that they've all designated. That's in our plan, as you know, that each school, something that you all approved, each school has to have a point of contact. And one of the roles of that point of contact is understanding who has tested positive and who should be in school and not in school. So that's a data point that's just been expressed of frustration, both at the county health level and from the superintendents in Salt Lake County.
Board Member Lear?
Thank you. I applaud Salt Lake's efforts and I respect Scott Hansen's thought that this maybe should be a statewide practice or not. But in spirit of local control, if the the school district is working with the health department locally, and it has the net effect of keeping all students safer, this is something I support. And this is not highly personal student information to know a student's name, date of birth, and gender. That's all directory information under FERPA. So for that information to be available to the health department is, I think, certainly for the greater good and protects all students. So I absolutely support this, and I applaud the health department for making the effort to do this.
Okay, just a reminder, check your hand. If you have something you still want to say, leave it up. But if you want to, if you are done speaking, please take your hand down. Board Member Davis.
Thanks. I just want to make sure I understand. This isn't giving access to more information than the health department would already have. It's just increasing the speed, correct? Is that right? Because ultimately, they have the right to all of this information. They just have to go to get it and have someone get it out for them instead of having it readily at their fingertips. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, that is correct. We have the authority to investigate and acquire this information. But that is a long, drawn-out process in some cases, and this is one way to really streamline that, is to build these partnerships. And I have to say the partnership that we've had with the school districts in Salt Lake County has been amazing. We've been able to really refine and streamline the process as best as we can, and this is the next phase of that partnership, is to create data linkages so that supports both of our efforts.
Thank you.
Board Member Belknap.
Yes, I'm just a little bit confused as to why these two entities, the Salt Lake School District and the Salt Lake City Health Department, can't do this without us being involved. Whitney, do you have an answer to that?
What I understand is that Salt Lake City County is different than Salt Lake City School District, and so there are so it's geographical as far as I understand with Salt Lake City County. This isn't just with the district, it's all the students within the county. Maybe Mr. Eason can verify that.
Yes, and just to clarify the name of our department, it is Salt Lake County Health Department. And our department is independent from the school districts, but we do work hand in hand to achieve public health within those settings. We have several districts within our jurisdiction, within our health jurisdiction, and to keep it consistent across those districts, and especially for students that may be in one district, may reside within the boundaries of one district, but yet attend school in another, we would need that information, which overlaps slightly.
Sure.
And that's why we look towards the enrollment verification.
Board Member Belknap, do you have a follow-up?
Just one more thing. I actually appreciated Scott's comment on top of Jenny and Michelle's that this is, maybe we're doing a little bit of piecemeal and we should look at this more holistically moving forward rather than today.
Board Member Earl.
Thank you. I just have one more question. Sorry to get you on there. My question, Whitney, is what's the frequency of the destruction of the data? In other words, how long is the data stored? What is in our contract with them?
I'll have to look into that specifically, but I believe that once a month they'll be receiving new data, and that old data will be destroyed. And maybe Mr. Eason, because it's no longer of use. Also, the data would need to be completely removed by December 31st of 2021 or upon the termination of this agreement, whichever is sooner, because we can terminate at USBE agreements at any time in case the pandemic, hopefully is resolved sooner than that. Then we would terminate this agreement. They would have, I believe, 72 hours to destroy all of their data and provide us with a certified statement that the data was destroyed.
Thank you.
Board Member Davis?
Sorry, I should have lowered my hand.
Board Member Hanson?
I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff to work with the state health department to come up with a comprehensive approach to data sharing with regard to the pandemic.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Board Member Marsh.
Okay. The motion before us is that we direct staff to work with the state health department to look at a comprehensive approach at student data sharing. Did I get that correct, Board Member Hanson?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
You always do a good job of wordsmithing my garbled motions. Thank you.
Okay, is there any discussion to that motion?
I can just repeat what I said before. I believe that this should be a common need everywhere, even if other health departments haven't recognized it. I think rather than us having, these similar data requests from all the COVID hotspots all over the state, we should just deal with it once, come up with the system, and figure out our privacy issues and how that should work with the health departments so that we can do this with one cohesive system for the state.
Okay, discussion to that motion, Board Member Lear.
And sorry if I'm being dense, I'm sorry if I'm asking to repeat something, either Whitney or Mr. Eason, but I'm still not understanding if the Salt Lake Health Department goes to any LEAs, and that could include charter schools as well as school districts in Salt Lake County. Why can they not just work this out between them? Why are we involved? Why is the board being requested to weigh in on this?
I think for efficiency's sake, I think it would take a very short period of time for USBE staff to provide this information and send it securely. And so that's why I think it's for efficiency.
And can I follow up, please,
yes.
Vice Chair?
Yes.
I appreciate that, and I would support that. I also can support Scott's motion, but also allow Salt Lake District I keep saying, mixing up my entities. The Salt Lake Health Department has taken on a responsibility, has taken the burden of doing this, and it's helpful. I don't know why we would want to stand in their way and not make them more effective and efficient. So I support Scott's motion saying that a holistic plan might be better or might also continue. But I feel like we are obstructing a health department that is trying to do the right thing and be proactive with the entities underneath it. And I would not want to, when this information is directory information under FERPA. None of this information is highly private, intrusive information. So to help this health department seems like the right thing to do, and then to move forward with the motion to create a statewide plan, which probably won't even come about given how fast bureaucracies work before this pandemic ends. And then we would still stand in Salt Lake Health Department's way. I think that is a mistake.
Is that a motion, Board Member Lear?
No, it's not. It's just a statement to Scott's motion that I support it, but I don't want to stand in the way of, and that's not what his motion said. He said, are we going to block this? Maybe it's asking for a clarification of Scott's motion. Are we saying to not approve this and rather wait 9 months until the bureaucracies get their stuff together and all agree what the appropriate process is, or can we allow Salt Lake County to go ahead with what it's already set up and do what Scott proposes? So I am asking for a clarification of Scott's motion.
So Board Member Lear, his motion was just to direct staff to move forward. If you want to add the approval of this, that would be an amendment to his motion.
But his motion didn't say and not approve this. Does this
His
need
motion
to be
did not.
affirmatively?
He did not make a motion to approve this data request. So his motion was only to direct staff.
Okay.
So if you want to add the approval of it, that would be an amendment to his motion.
I'd like to add the approval for this to be able to continue, as well as work on a statewide program. I'm not sure Scott will see that as a friendly amendment, but that would be my amendment, yes.
Okay, so the amendment from Board Member Lear is to approve Salt Lake City Department of Health data request and add that to the original motion, which was to direct staff to work with the state health department on a comprehensive approach to student data sharing. Okay, is there a second to the amendment?
Second, Jenny Gravitt.
Okay. Okay, so is there any discussion to the amendment? I have lots of hands up. Board Member Superintendent Dixon, did you have something to add to this?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Vice Chair Cummins. I just want to clarify for the board how state health and local health interact. So we have 13 local health departments, of which Salt Lake County is one. And they are, the local health officers are hired and have oversight by county commissioners, mayors, et cetera. So even though they're coordinated as a group and they all belong to an association and they're meeting with each other all the time, they are 13 separate entities. The State Department of Health, the Utah Department of Health, comes under the governor's office. So the State Department of Health is not regulating the testing information and getting the testing data. They don't, unless they reach out to county health, they're like to have a statewide plan through the State Department of Health this is probably what it would look like. The Utah Department of Health could go back to the 13 local health officers and say, can you come to some kind of agreement about the way that you get data and share data? Because they are two separate entities and the local health do not report to the Utah Department of Health. So I want to make that clarification because I think, Board Member Hansen, your motion is to ask the Utah Department of Health to come up with a plan around this data. And it really happens at the local level. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear about that.
Thank you, Superintendent. Board Member Davis.
I'm honestly not clear about anything. So, because I feel like it's getting muddy. I feel like these should be two separate motions, quite frankly. But question is, are we trying to solve a problem? And if doing this for Salt Lake, if doing this statewide will solve a problem, I'm curious, have we had our schools weigh in? Will this reduce their time? Will it increase their time? Do they prefer just to have an auto send every month so that they're not piecemealing with the health department every single time there's a case of coronavirus? And I think I support launching this process to get some feedback like that to eventually decide if we're going to do that or not. The bigger issue is I'm hearing from parents how frustrating it is, the lag time for the quarantine and for the learning impacts. So if this is going to give the same information they would get anyway, just do it faster. And if this is going to impact student learning and time in class, then I'm all for supporting this. But I do think we need to gather a little more information as if we pass this today, which I would vote to move forward with it. I think we need to gather information and then make the decision when it comes back to the board.
Okay, check your hands, please, once again, board members. Just double checking. I'm going to quickly share my thoughts on this particular motion. I am completely in support of supporting Salt Lake Health Department's request for this data. Early in this discussion of COVID, we were talking about our statewide plan. And one of the things that we talked about specifically in that is what are the local health departments doing and empowering them to really take action in solving this problem. There is a problem, and they have been proactive in trying to solve that in a very efficient way that doesn't impact students in any way, or negatively impact students in any way, but provides an efficient way for them to contact people quickly in a situation that many parents and families and schools are struggling with. And so I'm completely in support of their request, how they've requested and the manner in which they're going about this. They are doing their jobs in a very efficient way, the job that we have asked them to do from the very beginning, the job that the governor has asked them to do from the very beginning. And so I support this strongly. Board Member Thorpe.
Thanks. I'm not sure. I agree. I support the data sharing that's in front of us. And given the clarification we've received from Superintendent Dixon, I would not support asking staff to look at a statewide approach, but I do support this. So, and I'm not sure procedurally what we need to do to separate the two, since it's now an amendment to the motion. But that's where I stand.
Procedurally, we can add the amendment if board members approve the amendment, and then we can split the motion and vote on them separately. That's an option to move forward procedurally. Board Chair Huntsman.
Thank you. That was going to be my suggestion, is to continue to move forward, and then I believe it'll get split. So my other big concern is if I was listening to Dr. Dixon here, is at that state level. I'm not sure if on the state level that the motion that was given by board member Hanson, I don't know if his expectations or the expectations within that motion will be met. The way that we have our governance model with the local health departments, one really doing all the work, and then the state assigned with the governor. I just don't see the water getting pushed to the end of the row and meeting board member Hanson's expectations. So I'm not asking to split anything. I'll call to question on the amendment.
Sure.
Thank you, Mark.
You're on mute, Brittany.
Brittany, you're mute.
Thank you. The question has been called, so we will go ahead and vote. All those vote how you feel about calling the question, ending debate. Board Member Bolter. Okay, the motion to end debate passes. That takes us to the motion to amend, which was to add the approval of the Salt Lake City Department of Health data request to the original motion, which was to ask staff to work with the state health department about a comprehensive approach to student data sharing. So the motion now is to add, or the amendment to add, the approval of this. So please vote on that amendment. Board Member Bolter. Board Member Bolter. Okay, there we go. That motion passes. The no votes were Board Member Earl, Board Member Nielsen, and Board Member Bolter. Okay, that takes us back to our original motion. The original motion now states that the staff work with the, the original motion now states that the board approve the Salt Lake City Department of Health's data request and require staff or ask staff to work with the state health department on a comprehensive approach to student data sharing. Board Member Hanson.
Now, procedurally, you may have to help me, but I would like to amend my original motion to direct staff to work with the county health departments or the local health departments to come up with a comprehensive plan or a plan that's acceptable to all of them. And of course, with the amended motion, that would approve Salt Lake County's data request today.
Okay, so the amendment is to change state health department to county health departments. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, is there a second to that amendment?
Second, Board Member Cannon.
Okay.
Second also.
Okay, so the amendment before us is to change staff, to have staff work with the county health departments on a comprehensive approach to student data sharing. Any discussion to, excuse me, go ahead.
If I could speak to that.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, the intent here is really not to deny access to the data. I think that we need it to push forward with the pandemic response, but to prevent us from getting 13 different requests, all for different data in different formats. As much as we can do up front to have this be one system that everyone can use, because I believe the other requests should come in. Salt Lake County's making a reasonable request. I think it's something that streamlines the process. I just don't want to overburden USBE by having 13 different spreadsheets we have to put out, or however this data is transmitted. So that's my intent in amending the motion.
A further discussion to that motion, Board Member Cannon?
Yes, I agree with the motion. I think we're in a pandemic right now. We're kind of muddling our way through it. But wouldn't it be nice to have some of these things set in motions that streamline and help our locals deal with these things? I believe there's also a bigger issue about who has the authority to respond to the COVID-19 outbreak. We have left local boards with the responsibility of interpreting the guidelines, and in some cases they have overridden the guidelines from the health department. I think ultimately we need to sort this out and make it clear, and I hope this might be a step in the right direction to do that.
Okay. Board Member Earl?
Yeah, just two things. I think, can't local health departments do this without us? I guess that's my question. I'm not sure why we're the middleman for this. This is something they can do on their own, is gather that data, that enrollment data, if they choose to, if local districts choose to release that information. And then this speaks to a bigger question. Once again, why can't, when a parent takes a child in to get a COVID test, it would seem that would be a normal question, is where are you attending if we're concerned about the contact tracing? And so I think I do get concerned that when we do these broad, just because it's easy for us, therefore we should provide the data. And if it's okay in this situation, it will be okay in many situations. So I think once again, it's up to, and local health departments can make that choice as they facilitate the testing and as they carry on this dialogue, to ask for that information be gathered when the testing is done for children under the age of 18. So anyways, that's my thoughts.
Okay, board members, check your hands really quick. Board Member Hanson, do you have another question? Okay, seeing no further questions, the amendment is to change State Health Department to County Health Departments. All in favor, or excuse me, I keep saying that today, sorry. Please vote on that amendment. Okay, that motion passes with 4 no votes. Board Member Earl, Board Member Belknap, Board Member Nielsen, Board Member Bolter. Okay, we're back to the main motion. The main motion states that the board approve the Salt Lake City Department of Health's data request and request that staff work with county health departments on a comprehensive approach to student data sharing. Any discussion to that motion? Chair Huntsman, did you have your hand up? Sorry.
No.
Okay, sorry. Okay, Board Member Hanson.
Just a quick comment. I think that if this motion passes, my understanding would be that the 13 or the 12 other county health departments wouldn't need to come to us for further approvals to participate in this data sharing, that they would be able to use that system that's set up for Salt Lake.
There may be a question on that. Data sharing agreements are specific to the entities in which they're shared, so there may have to be something that would be amended on either this agreement or it would have to be some other type of agreement. Am I correct, Whitney?
My understanding is it would need to be an additional agreement, but it could be one agreement with all 12 on there. This, I think, we can have amendments to agreements if it's not a substantial material change. I think adding 12 other counties, we'll have to ask the AGs, but it seems like a pretty substantial change. But we could have one agreement with all of those other 12 and have negotiate that the system be the same just for our efficiency too. They shouldn't need any more data than what Salt Lake City Department of Health is asking for.
Okay.
Okay, so my renewed understanding then is that this would come before us on a consent calendar or something when additional counties were added.
That's correct.
Okay, I see no further questions. The motion before us is to approve the Salt Lake City Department of Health data request and to have staff work with county health departments on a comprehensive approach to do student data sharing. Board Member Davis.
This doesn't necessarily mean they have to do it that way. I mean, if they think the way they're doing it is more efficient or whatever than what Salt Lake City is proposing here, they can continue to do it their own way. Is that correct?
Yes, they would have to agree to the agreement if they wanted to choose to go this route, but they don't have to if it's working for them.
If everyone's okay, I'm not going to repeat the motion again. Oh, Board Member Earl, sorry.
I do apologize. I just want to make sure I understand. This agreement is not extended to all, right? We're not okaying this for all. We're just saying that they want to bring something forward, they can, and it would be Salt Lake School District or County that this would be for. Is that? I just want to make sure I'm accurate.
Correct. The motion states that we would approve this agreement with Salt Lake County Health Department. And then in addition to that, staff would work on an additional agreement with other county health departments. So anything that would be written for other county health departments would then return to the board for approval as a separate agreement. So.
Sorry, Brittany, I made you read it. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make sure I was specifically real clear on that.
Okay. Okay, that is the motion before us. I see no further questions. Please vote. Okay, that motion passes with 2 no votes. Board Member Earl, and Board Member Bolter. Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes the general consent calendar.